Update on the David situation. It sounds like his parents are in a lot of trouble. They're apparently being asked to come and testify in California. They don't want to do it, and it might be possible that they could end up being arrested like Neo in another state if they refuse to testify, and they're apparently doing everything they can behind the scenes to file legal paperwork to just do absolutely anything they can do to not testify. And David's father's a hotshot, so he might be able to pull it off. But if he can't, we could be seeing the whole Burke family in cuffs very soon. I'm going to break it all down to you guys in this video, so check this out that's going around. Our guy SF investigates Steve Fisher, the private investigator who was apparently retained by the owner of the property that David lived in when the body of the 14-year-old minor Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found in the trunk of his Tesla. Rest in peace to her. We are still fighting for justice, and we're keeping her name alive. But SF has given a crazy update in this tweet. And he basically said that David's dad is refusing to testify in court. This says David Burke's father has filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus, claiming that a summons ordering him to testify in California violates his due process rights because he lives in Texas. The footnote in the ruling states the underlying case is the people of the state of California versus David Burke. The Court of Appeals denied the petition. Both the petition and the underlying case documents, likely related to a failure to appear, similar to Neo's situation, are currently sealed, as a motion for a rehearing has been placed on the docket for February 24th. That footnote, the people of the state of California versus David Burke, is especially significant to me and could signal we are getting close to the beginning of justice for Celeste. So this is what he filed in the Court of Appeals for the First District of Texas. David Burke, all right, he's filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus contending the trial's court order summoning him to testify in California violates his due process. And interestingly enough, this has given a little reveal. Okay, we didn't know that this was a case. We didn't know what the case was called. Obviously, this is what it would be called, but this makes it official. The underlying case, the people of the state of California versus David Burke, and it's got a cause number. It's pending in the 506th District Court of Waller County, Texas, with the Right Honorable Gary W. Cheney presiding. Okay, this is mental. So a lot of people are kind of giving their opinions on this and kind of breaking it down, giving more information in the comments of this Reddit post going viral. So let's get into it and find out what's going on. It says, can anyone explain what this means in layman's terms? For a Brit unfamiliar with US law, please, what's his father attempting to do and based on what? People are saying David's father tried to go to a Texas judge and say he wasn't given due process to testify in California because he lives in Texas. Texas judge said, so sad, too bad, denied. So much for doing the right thing and being a steward for righteousness. They don't care about Celeste Rivas. Okay, he's gonna have to get in that confession booth. By the sounds of it, if you don't want to get in front of that grand jury, you might need to get in that confession booth. Next Sunday. It says someone else answered you well on the question of what David's father.
Yeah, that of him declining the court order to come to court to testify as a witness, that alone already looks suspicious on his part. So towards his son, that alone won't already going to stand negatively for his son.
Specifically tried to do, but another significant detail in all of this is the court order that officially names David Burke as the defendant in the People of State of California versus David Burke. While this should surprise no one, it's the first official confirmation the public has seen that California is going to prosecute David. Other significant details are David's father and brother have been compelled to testify, suggesting prosecutors have reason to believe they know incriminating details about their son or brother, and in my opinion, they are going to do everything they can to avoid being held to account, and they know a little too much, by the sounds of things, in my opinion, okay? People are saying that this is the first we've heard of the people of the state of California versus David Burke. It's kind of a huge deal, right? The case is sealed. We don't know exactly what it's about. He's trying to quash a subpoena to testify at the grand jury based on location. Denied. He's going to have to appear, and I predict that he pleads the fifth. People saying they're a garbage family. Only one innocent are his underage siblings. Fake Christians should be ashamed of themselves and removed from their parish. Justice for Celeste. She was an underage girl chopped up by your son. You demons. That's a good comment. So yeah, his dad is a preacher, and he screwed up their heads so bad because he uses it for control. He does not teach religion to be kind and loving. There was a model who accidentally OD'd on drugs. She was raised by a Pentecostal preacher and wife and wanted nothing to do with the whole thing. I wish she didn't end up dead. Religion kills as well as saves. Narcs hide in churches because they want to look legitimate.
Another thing for his father to decline having to appear in court as a witness, I don't think that's possible, because from what I know, generally speaking, once the court puts a subpoena for you to appear as a witness, or to appear as in any aspect or form at a court case, I don't think you really have the option. Once they give that order, you have to comply by that order. But maybe he knows something, maybe he's got lawyers or a team around him that can help him avoid having to appear as a witness. But time will tell. We'll wait and we'll see what happens.
People saying Yam with a quickfire updates appreciated. Look like it's against the main man, David, with possible accomplices to some degree. Huge positive update in the right direction. There will be some accessory charges. So the same thing was filed by his mother, Colleen Burke. Okay, people saying, no way, this is insane. They all knew about Celeste. We knew that, and I'm glad they're going to have to say it in court. Caleb Burke, his brother too. The whole family have got matching habeas corpus memorandums by the sounds of it. It's crazy. All saying we don't want to testify, we're out of state, it doesn't count, don't arrest us like Neo. Unlucky folks. People saying huge indeed, like SF noted, the official case against David Burke by the state of California, in David's name of course, is the first official confirmation that David is not only a suspect, as LAPD confirmed before, but now the accused. Does this mean that David's already been secretly arrested, processed, or formally charged? Edit, to answer my own question, in California, a person can be a defendant in a grand jury case without having been arrested or charged. The grand jury acts as an accusatory body, often investigating potential felony offenses to determine if there is enough evidence, probable cause, to issue an indictment and formally charge an individual. People are saying he can't be arrested without an indictment, but I'm surprised it doesn't say others. How is it possible that he did all of this by himself, so they're just going to give everyone immunity when it was a whole conspiracy? 4 out of 5 members from one family should be questioned. Only that last sister is innocent. People saying, oh my God, F these people. Everyone already knows, show up and make good from where you are now. Why double down in error? So disrespectful. People are saying, why would his father do this? At most, he's a character witness unless he's concerned with something that ties him into the case, making him a material witness, or he is stalling. Weird to stand your grounds on rights in a trial for your own son. They're saying because he's a preacher, he can't swear on the Bible to tell the truth about his son, but also possibly stalling. He might burst into flames. It's possible. Okay, I'm taking a wild guess here, but my theory is that he knew Celeste was underage and he could potentially be complicit in all of this. They all knew she was underage. So I'm thinking about this theory as well. They have to be both a burden of production and burden of persuasion to be interested in David's father. Leads me to believe they have enough information that they can provide the judge that can put David in a beyond reasonable doubt ruling. Daddy must be a key to this, not the daddy, folks. It is crazy. This is huge. It says they're stalling for as long as possible. At most, they just require him to testify as to what David told them when the body was discovered. At the very least, just a character witness. This is going to go on for a while before we see an arrest. It says, finally, we have a case number. Okay, shocker. Reverend Burke doesn't want to testify in a grand jury against his son. So much for practicing what you preach. Literal demons. I wonder what parish he's a part of. I wonder if they should be proud of this member of their church. Okay, I agree. Should be ashamed of himself. This popped up in my feed randomly. What's going on? We already know. So basically, this is crazy, okay? They're saying David did something back in New York. His dad's legal ties and his uncle Tariq Burke as a correctional officer, which is just like a law enforcement officer who's in the criminal justice system, probably had connections, had it sealed in the courts as David was a minor. Who knows what David's been getting away with this whole time? They're saying his mother would likely do the same. We know she did. She was always on tours with his sister in tow, and his little sister was in the video of him creeping around the school buses handing out shirts. She was in a lot of the videos in the background with his brother also. She knew exactly what her son was doing. He's also living at a $20,000 a month mansion, but she never stays there or visits because she knew where she could deny knowing about Celeste. What she didn't count on is all the videos and photos of her around. Like I said, whose mom wouldn't stay and visit you at your beautiful mansion in the Hollywood Hills? Big red flag. However, she was like a stage mom, always there with him everywhere else, at almost every show. Saying she should be ashamed of herself. She has a daughter. The Burke family is full of demons. Says this is a great point, as you noticed, despite all the tour pics, including in LA. We've never seen any pics of David's family at the mansion on Vieiro Drive, sometimes referred to as Doheny Drive due to address cross-listing, and we've also never seen pictures of them at the 804 North Doheny Drive house where David stayed when he first came to LA, and where he notoriously filmed the Twitch livestream with Celeste. Delete everything. Maybe Steve Fisher is sitting on some pics still of David's mom and dad. Okay, they're saying I'm surprised they subpoenaed his parents at all because they're just going to evoke the Fifth Amendment right. But this is interesting, so he will appear. He's not going to say anything, in my opinion. You can't evoke the fifth unless it incriminates you, not you, the individual, not on behalf of others. People saying whether any on that camera or not, it doesn't make any sense why David or his family didn't ever post being at that mansion. None of their media ever had anything with, say, pool parties, cookouts, etc. No look at my son's home. Normal stuff. As a parent, if my son lived in a mansion and was a star, I would have photos of get-together or visits there. What I'm saying is his parents never did this, yet we're active in his career, in promotional photos and going to concerts. They didn't want any proof of their knowledge of David, this underage girl. Yet we see they did know. No one believed she was a college student. If so, she would have been allowed to take group pictures. They all did. The absence of anything of this mansion in their social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram shows a big red flag. Exactly. Why hide her if you got nothing to hide? So as you can see here, his brothers filed the same thing. The whole family are filing it up. Okay, people saying makes you wonder why the mum was buying a gun after the body was found. Protection from whom? Perhaps her own son. Okay, it is absolutely out of control. It says the Burkes, except the innocent underage daughter, will go down as complicit in attempting to hide the death and abuse of a minor. Pathetic excuse of Christians. Okay, crazy. It says it's a pretty old school constitutional power move, and here's a breakdown of why a family would do this. What is a writ of... Excuse me. What is a writ of habeas corpus? In Latin, it means that you shall have the body. Excuse the pun. It's a fundamental legal right that acts as a check on government power. It's used to bring a prisoner or detainee before the court to determine if their imprisonment or detention is actually lawful. Why would his family file it? Well, under the law, if a person's being held and cannot file for themselves, or if a family wants to move faster, they can file as a next friend. This indicates that they're challenging detention. They're likely demanding the step.
You can go and file and bring forth whatever documentation that you want to for the court in declination of having to appear as a witness. But if the court truly wants you, the court, the law system, the feds, no matter what documentation you bring forth, if they want you to really appear in court, you have no choice. They'll come with whatever legislation applies to the current situation, and they'll make sure you're in court.
Prove it has the legal right to hold him. If the courts find the detention lacks legal basis, he could be released. Constitutional protection, it's often used if the defense believes his rights are being violated, like being held too long without a formal charge, being denied access to his lawyers, or being held under illegal conditions. Speeding up the process, while a grand jury weighs evidence, this writ forces a judge to look at the situation now rather than waiting for the standard trial timeline. What does this indicate about the case? High-stakes strategy. Filing this isn't common in standard cases. It shows his legal team and family are being extremely aggressive in protecting his Sixth Amendment rights. Contesting the suspect's status, since his vehicle was involved in the investigation, the family is likely using this to ensure he isn't being guilty by association without concrete evidence that justifies custody. Too long, don't read. His family isn't just supporting him, they're legally forcing the court to prove that the government has a valid constitutional reason to restrict his freedom. It's a major defensive maneuver to ensure the investigation follows the letter of the law. Nice, and it was rejected by the court. That's all that matters. Okay, and this is the post going around in some other subreddits. Okay, who's saying, I see his parents both knew that he was not in the right head for a very long time. I think they must know what's gone on, and they can't swear on the Bible and protect their vile son. It says, yes, but if he was already mentally unstable, living as if there was no tomorrow, imagine us mere mortals trying to survive without the resources he had access to. I think he hid a lot of things from his parents too. Anyone, even his parents, if they knew some things, would have found a way, even if it went against their principles. Everyone had a lot to lose there, and when Colleen was photographed, she seemed to be watching videos too. And when she answered the call, she seemed worried as hell. He lied to everyone, and his parents wouldn't have left him alone in LA if they knew anything. I even found it strange that they let him live there without them. His mother seems to like to impose her presence in his life, but I could be wrong. So yeah, I mean, we get the gist about, you know, why the parents... And now, in my opinion, just to give one little defense, possibly the reason that we don't have pictures of his family in his mansion is because maybe he wanted to keep that private, all right? I wouldn't let my family post pics in my mansion, all right? I don't have a mansion, but you get the gist, right? But this is massive news, okay? It does sound like this actually reveals that there is something formal pending against David, all right? The United States, California versus David. That's sounding a little bit spicy. That's sounding like a big problem to deal with. We're still thinking that he might get arrested in February. Honestly, I personally still think he might get arrested in February. I was saying that I thought they would arrest him on Valentine's Day, but I feel like it's getting a bit down to the bone now, down to the wire. And I think maybe that's not going to happen. Who knows? But I will let you guys know if it does happen. But yeah, We could be seeing his parents getting dragged in front of the grand jury. We could be seeing an arrest like what happened to Neo. It is absolutely crazy, okay? Let me know what you guys think down below. I'll give you another update on this when I have some more information. I haven't been uploading as much about the David story because there really hasn't been much going on at all, okay? But we're knee-deep in the Epstein files, so if you're enjoying this video and you're enjoying the David coverage, tap in, make sure you subscribe and watch the videos that I've been doing about Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you so much for your support and trusting me as your news source on this stuff with my...
So with the David case, taking into consideration all the investigation, all the evidence, the current evidence that they have, the coverage that they've done, he's seeming to be guilty. So if he did commit this crime, he deserves to get sentenced and go to prison, etc. Most likely, in my opinion, it looks like he's done the crime. It looks like also his family knows something. That's why they don't even want to go to court. But 9 times out of 10, I'm sure they're going to have to appear in court. They'll have to speak and answer whatever questions that the court has for them. And then hopefully in the end, most likely justice will prevail.